The ship was falling. Una held onto her seat with both hands. Red lights flashed all around her. The computer voice kept saying the same words again and again. Warning, warning, warning. But she already knew. She could feel it in her bones. The small research shuttle was going to crash. Through the window, she saw a green moon rushing up to meet her. Trees, mountains, rivers that looked like silver lines. It was beautiful. It was also going to kill her. She closed her eyes and thought of her mother back on Earth. She thought of the small apartment in Seoul where she grew up. She thought of the warm soup her grandmother used to make on cold winter nights. Strange, the things you remember when you think you are about to die. The shuttle hit the trees first. Branches broke against the metal like bones, snapping. Then came the ground. The impact threw Una forward. Her chest hit the control panel. She heard something crack inside her body. Pain exploded through her ribs. Then everything went black. When she opened her eyes again, it was dark outside. The shuttle had stopped moving. Smoke filled the small cabin. Una tried to breathe and felt a sharp pain in her chest. Broken rib. Maybe two. She had studied enough medicine to know. Slowly, carefully, she pulled herself out of her seat. Every movement hurt. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. Her left leg was bruised, but not broken. She could walk. That was good. Walking meant living. The door of the shuttle was stuck. She kicked it 3 times before it fell open. Cool night air rushed in. It smelled like pine trees and wet earth. Like the forest back home, but not quite. There was something else in the air. Something wild. Una stepped out onto the soft ground. She looked up at the sky and saw 2 moons hanging above her. One was large and pale blue. The other was small and red. Neither of them was Earth's moon. She was very, very far from home. She knew where she was. The briefing before her mission had shown her maps. This was the forest moon of a gas giant called Titan 7. The Galactic Union had marked this place with a red warning. No contact zone. Do not land. Dangerous wildlife. The wildlife they warned about was the Volari. Una had seen pictures of them. They looked like wolves, but bigger. Much bigger. They stood as tall as horses and had silver fur that shined in moonlight. Their eyes were yellow like fire. Their teeth could bite through steel. The Union said they were intelligent. They had language. They had laws. But their most important law was simple. Outsiders who entered their territory would die. And Una had just crashed right in the middle of their home. She worked through the night. She pulled supplies from the broken shuttle. Water bottles. Food packs. A medical kit. A small knife. Her communication device was destroyed. The emergency beacon was damaged, but she managed to turn it on. It would send a weak signal. Maybe someone would hear it. Maybe help would come. But help could take weeks, months. She had to survive until then. She made a small camp inside the shuttle. It was not safe, but it was shelter. She cleaned the cut on her head and wrapped bandages around her ribs. The pain was bad, but she did not cry. Crying would not help her. By morning, she felt worse. Her body was hot. Too hot. Fever. The wound on her head must have gotten infected. She needed medicine, but her medical kit only had basic supplies. Not enough. Not nearly enough. She spent the day resting inside the shuttle. She drank water. She ate a small food pack. She tried not to think about the shadows that moved between the trees outside. She told herself they were just animals. Just birds. Just wind-moving branches. But deep in her heart, she knew the truth. Something was watching her. When night came again, the fever got worse. Una shook under her thin blanket. She coughed hard, and the coughing made her broken ribs burn with pain. She tasted blood in her mouth. This was bad. Very bad. She looked out through the broken door of the shuttle. The twin moons were rising again. Their light fell on the trees and turned everything silver. And there, at the edge of the light, she saw something. Eyes. Small yellow eyes, low to the ground. Watching her, Yuna's heart stopped. A Valari. She was going to die. This was how it ended. Alone on a strange moon, killed by a wolf that could think like a human. But the eyes did not come closer. They just watched. And after a long moment, they blinked once and disappeared into the darkness. Yuna did not sleep that night. She lay there, shaking with fever, waiting for death to come. But death did not come. In the shadows beyond the shuttle, a small silver cub sat alone. She was young, only 6 months old. Too young to hunt, too young to fight. Her name was Kira, and she had wandered far from her family's den. She had heard a strange sound in the night. A sound like pain. A sound like crying. Her mother had taught her that when a packmate made sounds like that, you had to help them. You had to protect them. Kira did not understand that the creature in the broken metal thing was not a packmate. She did not understand that it was a human. She only understood one thing. Something was hurting, and she wanted to make it stop. She sat in the darkness and watched the strange creature shake and cough. She tilted her small head. She was thinking. Tomorrow, she would come back. Tomorrow, she would help. The cub had made her choice. 3 days passed. Yuna grew weaker with each one. The fever burned through her body like fire. She could barely move now. Her water bottles were empty. Her food was almost gone. She lay on the cold floor of the shuttle and stared at the ceiling. She thought about giving up, but every night those small yellow eyes came back. The cub never came close. She always stayed at the edge of the trees, half hidden in shadow. Sometimes she sat there for hours, just watching. Yuna did not understand why the creature did not attack. She did not understand why it came back again and again. On the 4th morning, Yuna woke to find something strange outside the shuttle door. A hollowed gourd sat on the ground. Water filled it almost to the top. Yuna stared at it for a long time. She thought maybe she was dreaming. Maybe the fever was making her see things that were not real. But when she reached out and touched the gourd, it was solid. The water inside was cool and fresh. Rainwater. Someone had brought this to her. Yuna looked toward the trees. Nothing moved. No yellow eyes watched her. But she knew. Somehow, she knew. She drank the water slowly. It hurt her throat to swallow, but she forced herself. Water meant life. And something out there wanted her to live. That night, she stayed awake. She wanted to see who was helping her. She sat near the door of the shuttle with her thin blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The twin moons rose. Silver light spilled across the ground. And then she saw her. The cub walked out of the shadows. She was small, maybe the size of a large dog. Her fur was silver white, soft and thick. Her ears were pointed and alert. Her yellow eyes glowed in the moonlight. She carried something in her mouth. Berries. A bundle of small red berries wrapped in a leaf. The cub stopped a few meters away from Yuna. She put the berries on the ground. Then she stepped back and sat down. Her tail curled around her paws. She tilted her head and looked at Yuna with curious eyes. Yuna did not move. She barely breathed. She was afraid that if she made any sound, the cub would run away. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Human and Valari, two creatures from different worlds. But something passed between them. Something quiet and gentle. The cub made a soft sound. It was not a growl. It was more like a question. Yuna smiled. She could not help it. The creature was trying to help her. This small, wild thing had brought her water and food. Like a child caring for a sick parent. Slowly, very slowly, Yuna reached for the berries. The cub watched but did not run. Yuna picked up the bundle and brought it to her mouth. The berries were sweet and a little sour. They were the best thing she had ever tasted. She looked at the cub. She wanted to say thank you. She wanted to explain that she was not dangerous. But she did not know if the creature could understand human words, so she did something simple. She pressed her hand against her heart and bowed her head. A gesture of thanks. A gesture of respect. The cub's ears went forward. She seemed surprised. Then she made that soft sound again, stood up, and walked back into the trees. Yuna watched her go. For the first time since the crash, she felt something like hope. The days became a pattern after that. Every morning, Yuna would find water outside her door. Sometimes there were berries. Sometimes there were roots. Once there was a small dead bird. Its neck broken clean. The cub had killed it for her. Yuna did not want to eat raw meat. But she was starving. She made a small fire with pieces of the shuttle and cooked the bird over the flames. It was not much, but it was enough. Every night, the cub came to watch her. And every night, Yuna talked to her. She knew the cub could not understand the words, but she talked anyway. She told the cub about Earth, about Korea, about the apartment, where she grew up and the university where she studied. She told her about the stars and the ships that carried humans across the galaxy. She told her about loneliness and fear and hope. Sometimes she sang old songs her grandmother had taught her, lullabies in Korean that made the cub's ears twitch with interest. The cub would lie down in the grass and listen. Her yellow eyes would half close. She looked peaceful, happy. Yuna started calling her Kira. She did not know why. The name just felt right. Little Kira, the small wolf who saved her life. But Yuna did not know that trouble was coming. She did not know that Kira's family had noticed the cub's long absences. She did not know that scouts were already following Kira's trail through the forest. Far away, in a great den made of stone and earth, a large male Valari stood before a fire. His name was Doha. He was the leader of the pack, the Alpha, and Kira was his daughter. A scout stood before him. The scout's head was low. He did not want to speak, but he had to. There is a creature in the eastern forest, the scout said in the language of the Valari. It fell from the sky, metal and fire. It is still alive. Doha's yellow eyes narrowed. What kind of creature? The scout hesitated. Then he spoke the word that changed everything. Human. Doha went very still. A human, in their sacred territory. This was forbidden. This was punishable by death. And where is my daughter? He asked. His voice was cold. The scout could not meet his eyes. She has been visiting the human, he said quietly. She has been bringing it food and water. She has been keeping it alive. Doha said nothing. The fire crackled. The shadows danced on the stone walls. His daughter had bonded with a human. His daughter had broken the most sacred law of their people, and now Doha would have to decide what to do about it. They came at dawn. Yuna was sleeping when she heard them. Heavy footsteps. Many of them. Coming through the trees like thunder rolling across the sky. She opened her eyes and sat up fast. Pain shot through her ribs, but she ignored it. Through the broken door of the shuttle, she saw them. Valari, not just one. Dozens. They came out of the forest like silver ghosts. Their yellow eyes burned in the early light. They were huge, much bigger than Kira. The smallest one stood taller than Yuna. The largest was the size of a horse. Yuna could not run. She could not fight. All she could do was stand there and wait for death. One of the Valari stepped forward. He was bigger than the others. His fur was darker, almost gray. Scars crossed his face. His eyes were cold and hard. Yuna knew, without being told, that this was the leader. This was Doha, Kira's father. He looked at Yuna for a long moment. Then he spoke. His voice was deep and rough. Yuna could not understand his words, but she understood his tone. He was angry. He was asking questions. Behind him, two warriors moved forward. They grabbed Yuna's arms and pulled her out of the shuttle. She cried out in pain. Her broken ribs screamed. But the warriors did not care. They dragged her across the ground and threw her at Doha's feet. Yuna looked up at the great wolf. Her body shook with fear. But she did not look away. She would not die begging. Then she heard a small voice. Kira burst out of the trees. The little cub ran toward them, her silver fur flying behind her. She pushed past the warriors and stood between Yuna and her father. Her small body shook, but her eyes were fierce. She barked at Doha, short, sharp sounds. Yuna did not understand the words, but she understood the meaning. The cub was defending her. The cub was telling her father to stop. Doha looked down at his daughter. Something changed in his eyes. The cold anger became something else. Sadness, pain, shame. He spoke to Kira. His voice was softer now. But Kira did not move. She stayed where she was, her small body a shield between the human and the pack. One of the warriors growled. He stepped forward. He said something harsh to Doha. Yuna could tell it was a demand. Kill the human. Kill it now. Follow the law. Doha did not answer. He just stood there, looking at his daughter, looking at the human, thinking. Then he turned and walked away. The warriors followed. They picked up Yuna and carried her with them. She looked back and saw Kira running behind, her small legs working hard to keep up. They walked for hours. Through deep forest, over rocky hills, across a cold river that made Yuna gasp. Finally, they came to a great stone den built into the side of a mountain. The home of the pack. Inside, hundreds of Valari waited. They filled the great stone hall. Their eyes glowed in the firelight. They watched as the warriors brought Yuna before them. At the front of the hall, old Valari sat on raised stones. These were the elders, the ones who made the laws, the ones who decided who lived and who died. The oldest of them was a female. Her fur was white with age. Scars covered her body. One of her eyes was missing, but her remaining eye was sharp and bright. Her name was Bora, and she was the keeper of their oldest laws. Bora looked at Yuna. She looked at Kira, who had pushed through the crowd to stand near the human again. She looked at Doha, who stood silent and still. Then she spoke. Her voice was old but strong. It filled the hall like wind filling sails. The elders will discuss this matter. For hours, they talked. Yuna sat on the cold stone floor and watched. She could not understand their words, but she could read their faces. Some were angry. They wanted her dead. Others were confused. A few looked at Kira with something like pity. Yuna understood what was happening. The cub had broken their laws by helping her. And now Kira was in danger too. This was wrong. Yuna had crashed here by accident. She had never wanted to break any laws. She had never wanted to bring trouble to this small creature who had saved her life. She had to do something. Slowly, Yuna stood up. Her body screamed with pain, but she ignored it. The hall went silent. Every yellow eye turned to look at her. She walked forward. Warriors moved to stop her, but Bora raised a paw. "Let her come," the old female said. Yuna walked until she stood before the elders. Her legs shook. Her heart pounded. But she did not stop. She did not know their language, but she knew their customs. She had studied them before her mission. She knew what she had to do. Slowly, carefully, she knelt on the stone floor. She lowered her head. Then she bent forward until her forehead touched the cold ground. She reached up with both hands and moved her hair away from her neck. She exposed her throat. This was the Valari gesture of complete surrender. It meant, "I give you my life. Take it if you must. I will not fight. The hall was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Then Yuna spoke. She used the only Valari word she knew. The word for exchange. For trade. She was offering her life in exchange for Kira's innocence. Bora stared at her. The old female's eye was wide with surprise. In all her long years, she had never seen anything like this. A human weak and broken, offering to die so that a Valari cub would not be punished. The hall remained silent. Doha stood frozen. Even the angry warriors had stopped growling, and in the back of the hall, a small silver cub watched with tears running down her furry face. Her human was trying to save her. Just as she had tried to save her human. Bora was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, she began to smile. "There is another way," she said. Bora told them about an ancient law. "Long ago," she said, "before our people closed their borders, outsiders could earn the right to live among us. They had to prove their worth. They had to pass 3 tests, the hall filled with whispers. Many of the Valari had never heard of this law. It was old, nearly forgotten. But Bora remembered. She remembered everything. If the human passes these tests," she continued, "she will become pack-touched, protected. She will stay with us until she can return to her own people. And the cub will face no punishment." Some of the warriors growled in protest. But Doha stepped forward. "I accept this," he said. His voice was tired but firm. "Let the human face the trials." Yuna did not understand their words, but she understood that something had changed. She was not going to die. Not yet. She had been given a chance. They gave her 1 night to rest. Kira stayed with her in a small stone room. The cub curled up next to Yuna and pressed her warm body against the human side. Yuna put her arm around the small Wolf and held her close. "Thank you," Yuna whispered. "I do not know if you understand me, but thank you." Kira made a soft sound. She understood. Maybe not the words, but she understood the feeling. The first test came with the morning sun. They took Yuna to the edge of the territory. A river ran through a deep valley. The water was fast and cold. Ice floated on the surface. On the other side, a red flag hung from a tree. "Cross the river," Bora said. A translator, a young Valari who had learned human language, spoke the words for Yuna. "Reach the flag." That is the first test. The test of endurance. Yuna looked at the river. It was wide. The current was strong, and she was still weak. Her fever had only just broken. Her ribs still ached with every breath, but she had no choice. She walked into the water. The cold hit her like a fist. Her breath caught in her throat. Her muscles cramped. Every part of her body screamed at her to go back. She kept walking. The water rose to her waist, to her chest. Her feet slipped on the stones below. The current pushed her sideways. She fell. Her head went under. Cold darkness surrounded her. She thought of Kira, the small cub sitting on the shore, watching her. Believing in her. She would not give up. She would not let Kira down. Yuna pushed herself up. She gasped for air. She grabbed the rock and pulled herself forward. 1 step, then another, then another. The Valari on both shores watched in silence. They had expected her to fail. They had expected her to drown. But the human kept moving. Slowly, painfully, she crossed the river. When she reached the other side, she collapsed on the ground. Her body shook. Her lips were blue, but her hand reached up and touched the red flag. The first test was complete. They gave her an hour to warm up. Then came the second test. A cave opened in the side of a cliff. Inside, something moved in the darkness. Yuna could hear hissing sounds. She could smell something sharp and bitter. Inside this cave, the translator said, there was a golden token. You must bring it out. But be careful. The creatures inside are deadly. Yuna looked into the darkness. She could see nothing, but she could hear them. Many of them, moving, waiting. She remembered her training. She was a xenobiologist. She studied alien creatures. She knew how they thought, how they hunted, how they could be avoided. She picked up a stone from the ground. She hit it against the cliff wall. A sharp sound rang out. Inside the cave, the hissing stopped. The creatures went silent. Yuna smiled. She understood now. These creatures hunted by sound. If she was quiet, they might not find her. She took off her boots. She stepped into the cave barefoot. She moved slowly, carefully. Each step was soft and silent. The creatures moved around her in the darkness. She could feel them passing close. Their scales brushed against her legs. But she did not make a sound. In the center of the cave, a small golden disc sat on a stone. Yuna reached down and picked it up. It was warm in her hand. She turned and walked back toward the light. One of the creatures moved in front of her. She could see its outline now. A snake as thick as her arm. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness. Its mouth opened, showing fangs dripping with poison. Yuna went completely still. She did not breathe. She did not blink. The creature tilted its head. It listened, but it heard nothing. After a long moment, it turned and slid away. Yuna walked out of the cave. She held up the golden token. The Valari stared at her with wide eyes. No one had ever passed that test without getting bitten, but the human had done it. She had used her mind instead of her strength. Now only one test remained. They brought her back to the Great Hall. All the Valari had gathered to watch. Bora stood before her with a sharp knife made of black stone. The third test is the test of sacrifice, the elder said. You must prove that you value our pack's honor above your own safety. You must give us your blood. The translator spoke the words. Yuna understood. She took the knife from Bora. It was heavy in her hand. The blade was sharp enough to cut bone. She looked at the elders. She looked at Doha. She looked at Kira, who watched from the crowd with fear in her yellow eyes. Then, without hesitation, Yuna pressed the blade against her palm. She cut deep. Blood flowed from the wound, dark and red. She held her hand over a stone bowl and let the blood drip into it. The pain was sharp. But Yuna did not cry out. She did not flinch. She just stood there, bleeding, as the bowl slowly filled. When it was enough, Bora raised her paw. Yuna lowered her hand. A warrior came forward and wrapped a cloth around her wound. It is done, Bora said. The human has passed all 3 tests. The hall erupted in noise. Some Valari cheered. Others growled in anger. But the law was clear. Yuna had proven herself. She was now pack-touched, protected. But one Valari did not accept this. A large warrior pushed through the crowd. His fur was black as night. His eyes burned with hatred. His name was Taiyang, and he had always believed that humans were monsters. He had lost his brother to human hunters long ago. I do not accept this, he snarled. He pointed at Yuna. This creature does not belong here. No test can change what she is. I will kill her myself. He stepped toward Yuna. His claws came out. His teeth were bared. Yuna was too tired to run, too weak to fight. She had nothing left. She closed her eyes and waited for the end. Taiyang moved fast. His claws slashed through the air toward Yuna's throat. In 1 second, it would all be over. Everything Yuna had fought for, everything she had survived, gone. But the blow never landed. A small silver shape flew through the air. Kira threw herself between Taiyang and Yuna. The cub landed hard on the stone floor. She spread her legs wide. She lowered her head. Her small body shook with fear, but she did not run. Taiyang stopped. His eyes went wide with shock. Everyone in the hall went silent. No one could believe what they were seeing. A cub, barely 6 months old, standing against a full-grown warrior. Kira opened her mouth, and she roared. It was not a big sound. It was not a strong sound. It was small and rough, like stones scraping together. A sound that came from deep in her small chest. A sound that said, "I am here. I will not move. If you want to hurt her, you must go through me." The Valari in the hall gasped. Some fell to their knees. Others pressed their paws against their hearts. The translator spoke to Yuna in a shaking voice. "That is the first roar," she said. "It is the most sacred moment in a Valari's life. When a cub makes their first roar, they are declaring what they are willing to die for, what they will protect with their last breath." Yuna stared at Kira. Tears filled her eyes. Kira had just told everyone in the hall that she would die for a human. She had declared, in front of her whole pack, that this strange creature from another world was worth her life. Taiyang stood frozen. His claws were still out. His eyes were still filled with hate. But he did not move. He could not. To attack now would mean killing a cub who had just made her first roar. It would be the greatest crime a Valari could commit. Doha stepped forward. He walked slowly toward his daughter. His face was unreadable. The whole hall watched in silence. He stopped in front of Kira. The cub looked up at her father. She was still shaking, but she did not look away. She was brave. So brave. Doha looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something no one expected. He knelt down. He lowered his great head until his forehead touched Kira's. He closed his eyes. "I am proud of you," he said. His voice was thick with emotion. "You have more courage than any warrior in this hall." Kira made a small sound. A whimper. She pressed herself against her father's chest. For a moment, they just held each other. Father and daughter. Alpha and Cub. Then Doha stood up. He turned to face the hall. His eyes swept across every Valari present. When he spoke, his voice was strong and clear. "The human is pack-touched," he said. "She passed the tests. She earned her place. And my daughter has declared her protection with her first roar. This is sacred. This is law. Anyone who challenges this challenges me." He looked at Taiyang. The black warrior met his eyes. Hatred still burned there. But behind the hatred, there was something else. Fear. He knew he could not win against the Alpha. Taiyang lowered his head. He stepped back into the crowd. He did not speak again. Doha turned to Yuna. He walked toward her. She was still kneeling on the ground, too weak to stand. He stopped in front of her and looked down. "You will stay with us," he said. The translator spoke his words. "Until your people come for you, you will be protected. You will be fed. You will be treated as one of us." Yun bowed her head. "Thank you," she whispered. Doha nodded. Then he turned and walked away. 3 months passed. Yuna's wounds healed. Her ribs stopped hurting. She learned to walk the forest trails without getting lost. She learned which berries were safe to eat and which would make her sick. She learned the Valari language, a few words at first, then more and more each day. And every day, Kira was by her side. The cub grew fast. She was taller now, almost reaching Yuna's waist. Her fur had grown thicker. Her eyes had grown wiser. But she was still the same Kira, still curious, still gentle. Still a small wolf who had heard a cough in the darkness and decided to help. They walked together through the forest. They slept next to each other at night. Yuna told Kira stories about Earth and the stars. Kira taught Yuna how to hunt, how to listen to the wind, how to read the signs of the forest. They became family. Then one day, a new sound filled the sky. Yuna looked up and saw a ship. A human ship. It was small and silver. It came down through the clouds and landed in a clearing near the old crash site. The rescue team had finally found her. Emergency signal. The Valari gathered at the edge of the forest. They watched as Yuna walked toward the ship. She was dressed in clothes they had made for her. Animal skins and woven grass. She looked more Valari than human now. The ship's door opened. Humans in uniforms stepped out. They stared at Yuna with shocked eyes. They stared at the dozens of silver wolves watching from the trees. Yuna turned back to look at the pack. Doha stood at the front. Bora was beside him. And there, pushing through the crowd, was Kira. The young wolf ran to Yuna. She pressed her head against Yuna's chest. She made a soft, sad sound. Yuna knelt down. She wrapped her arms around Kira's neck. She held her tight. "I have to go," she whispered. "But I will never forget you. You saved my life. You gave me a family. You showed me what courage really means." Kira looked up at her. Her yellow eyes were wet with tears. "I heard you cough," she said in the Valari language, "and I chose to help. That is all." Yuna smiled through her tears. "That is everything," she said. She kissed Kira's forehead. Then she stood up and walked toward the ship. She did not look back. She could not. If she looked back, she would never leave. The ship rose into the sky. Through the window, Yuna watched the forest moon grow smaller and smaller. She saw the silver wolves watching from the trees. She saw one small wolf standing at the very front, looking up at the sky. The other humans asked her questions. Who were those creatures? What happened to her? How did she survive? Yuna did not answer right away. She just looked out the window at the stars. Finally, she spoke. "I crashed," she said. "I was hurt. I was alone. I thought I was going to die. Then a cub heard me cough in the darkness. She did not know what I was. She did not know I was supposed to be her enemy. She just knew I was hurting." Yuna smiled, and she chose to protect me. The ship flew on through the stars. Behind them, on a small forest moon, a young wolf sat and watched the sky until the ship disappeared. She did not cry anymore. She was not sad. She knew that somewhere out there, among all those distant lights, her human was safe. And that was enough. That was everything.